Hey, what's up guys? My name's Kyle from RR Buildings, and we're gonna do a quick ceiling installation how-to video, some tips and tricks, and other things that you may wanna know and consider when doing a metal ceiling in a post frame structure. The first thing you're gonna wanna do whenever you're doing a ceiling is make sure all of your framing that you might need up above your ceiling is done, and then what we need to do is get our layout on the ceiling so that we know where to install all that steel. You don't wanna just go willy-nilly and start putting steel up in the air. It will not end well for you. So what we need to do is know the dimension of our steel, what the coverage is, so that we can lay that out. Now, most steel is going to be 36-inch coverage, but depending on how it's roll formed, you're going to need to know where your total coverage is so that you know where to make that first snap line mark. So what we do is just hook the edge, measure to our siphon leg, which is the part that's going to be underneath your overlap, and we're 37 3/8. We're using Metal Wholesale metal here. This is their liner panel. Every manufacturer might be slightly different, so always double check. Even from the same manufacturer, double check before you start installing to confirm this exact dimension, which I'm going with 37 7/8. So two things to consider that we always think about when laying out ceiling steel, that is where the main point of entry is. So we're in the back of the building, that's where we want to start our steel. And that is because all of our overlaps will be hidden from the main eye when you're coming in this building. So that 37 7/8 dimension that we measured is what we want to start with. And I'm actually going to go 38 instead of 37 7/8 because you don't ever want anything super tight. And now what we're going to do is snap a line from end to end, so we have a perfectly straight line to start our first run of steel. Okay, you go ahead there, buddy, and I'll snap it. Okay, good, that's good. All right, now that line is important because this is what starts the steel ceiling layout, and it's gonna dictate whether or not your steel is straight, and that obviously is an important thing. If you don't start straight, you can't end straight. That's a lie, you can, but it would be a lot of work. You could start crooked and then work it out to straight, but you could also start straight and work it to crooked.
Teamwork, we'll do this together. I'm not really stretching, just kind of snugging it up. That's important. You don't want to overstretch it, but you want it tight.
All right, that's it right here. Set yours down. Just because we can do it doesn't mean we have to do it. Just let me get it. Wait. Okay, yes, you got it the right way. Just making sure that it's, oh man, this is gonna suck. That plastic, pretty low. Yeah, I think I can do this, Greg. Okay. Now 3 of those. So we have a vapor barrier installed on our ceiling. I don't want to say that you have to have that because it's going to depend on where you're at in the country, but where we are, we put a vapor barrier up. So that goes up before you put your steel. That's going to prevent moisture from making it up into your attic space. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to install our trims around the perimeter. That is going to clean up the edges, and that's where our steel is going to get installed into. What we are using here is what we refer to as an F and J because it looks like a letter F with a J channel. This is going to be where our steel goes in from the ceiling, and this is where our wall steel will go in. If you're not doing a wall steel, maybe you would just use a standard J channel. So this is just going to go right up tight to the bottom side of our trusses. And we're gonna go around the entire perimeter with this F&J. Okay, there you go. Got it, go ahead and grab another one. I got it.
Well, this next one needs to be cut.
Perfect. Work for you?
I think so.
Okay.
Get up high.
Okay, so we've got all of our prep work done to start laying the steel. We've got our marks on the ceiling, so we know exactly where our layout is gonna start for the first sheet. We've got our vapor barrier up, and we've got our F&J trim up on the wall. So that's what we needed in order to now start laying our steel up on the ceiling. One thing I want to note is you'll notice we have all of our ceiling steel piled up in the order of reverse that we're going to put it up. So we started with the last sheet, put it in our lift upside down, and then stacked everything, working our way back to our first sheet. Obviously, I realize most people aren't going to have a mega deck to do this in, but it is nice to organize your steel so that when it comes time to install it, you're not wondering what piece you're going to use. So with these pieces on the lift like this, Greg and I are able to just take them and then go right up to the ceiling. So he's going to get his into the J channel on that end, and then we're going to find our line that we snapped initially, and that'll be where we install this first piece. So we get into our trims, and then I'm looking right here for my line. Greg, are you on your line?
I am.
And then what I'm going to do is use a roofing nailer here because it's going to put a nice flat nail right here where I'm going to overlap. I don't want to put a screw there, obviously, because it would be in my way. So once again, I'm looking for my truss, and then I've got my snap line right here. Okay, buddy, go ahead. And you could try to measure and mark and punch these marks for the screws on the trusses, but it can be a little daunting sometimes, so we don't do that. We will mark each truss with a little pencil mark, and then we will connect the dots with our screws. Now, Greg, we're gonna feel a good lap.
Mm-hmm.
Nice one, dude. Okay, I'm in.
Yep.
I'm on my mark,
Okay.
and I'm flush on the back of my truss. Please don't fall out. Okay, good lap.
Right here on the side, it has like the date, and then 8 foot 1 inch, and then down there's 411.
What?
Yeah. Was it 411? No, 7.4.
7.4½.
7.4, yeah. I don't see the half, but.
Wow. That's pretty cool.
I do like that. Okay.
Okay, good.
Yep.
No, not so much of a turn, Greg. There you go. Yep.
You got this? Seven fours?
7.4s.
I'm dyslexic, sorry.
So one of the major things that we do to ensure consistent straight steel on our ceiling is that when we place our metal, we're gonna make sure that we're always having a good lap. We call it having a good lap. And what that means is when we do our overlap and we take our good lap over the siphon rib, we're gonna make sure that this inside edge is seated perfectly on the inside edge of that siphon. So that right there. We don't wanna be out here and we don't wanna be up here. That is gonna be a bad thing. So we want this to be perfect right there, and then that is what we're gonna fasten. The other thing we wanna do is we don't want to be just putting screws in or nails or fastening. We wanna try to make sure the sheet is always laying as flat as possible so that it's not twisted and tweaked one way or the other, and it will help ensure that it runs as straight as possible. Okay. Take it back, Greg, take it back. Yeah, okay, go ahead. There you go.
Gonna have boulders for shoulders.
Now you guys may be asking yourself, we've come out basically 18 feet, we've got 6 rows of steel, and we only snapped a line on our first row. So combining the fact that we're always gonna be consistent on making sure our lap is the same, that is gonna help us stay straight, but also what we've been doing is we've been alternating our groups of 3. So we ran our first 3, then we stepped back and we did a stagger joint on the next group of 3. That's 3 is because we can do 3 from our scissor lift. You might want to do every other, every fourth, whatever. I don't recommend running your steel in one straight connection or overlap line because it's very easy for wherever that connection is the steel can sometimes grow because of the overlapping of your metal. So if you're going to mark everything out 3 foot, then it shouldn't be a problem. But if you're going to be like us and just run the ceiling from a starting point, by staggering your steel, what happens is when we run this next sheet, we're going to now go to a long sheet stagger of 16 foot. It's going to go over top of this joint. And if this joint here is a little bit back or a little bit ahead, it will help correct that by kind of basically cutting that distance that it is off in half by overextending to the next sheet. You'll see what we're talking about here if there is even an issue. Let's go ahead and put this piece up, Greg. So we take this long 16-footer and we're gonna extend over that joint that is right there. So I'm gonna still do the same thing, make sure I have a good lap. Greg, are you on your mark?
Yes.
Okay, so when I come out here, okay, it could be a hair ahead, I'm not sure, but now that I can make sure I have a good lap here, this is where I can kind of cheat myself and give myself a little bit of room for air by doing this overlap right here. Okay. So in this building, we're doing our ceiling on top of trusses that are 8 foot on center, and that's usually our go-to. We're gonna be putting an R38 fiberglass blown-in insulation on top of this. Obviously, you can go closer than 8 foot. I wouldn't recommend further. Talk to your engineer or whoever's manufacturing your metal, but with a 29 gauge, that's what we feel comfortable with. We've been doing it for years with great success. So 8 foot on center is about as far as we like to go with our metal. Sorry, brother. So when talking about the span of the metal, because we are going 8 foot on center with our trusses and the steel is going from that span, we're going to add a lap screw. I recommend this anytime you go probably over 4 feet in truss span. So all we're doing is just measuring from a truss. Since we're 8 foot, we're going 4 foot, and we're putting a screw through the lap. That is going to just ensure that if the weight of the insulation is on it, it just kind of keeps it all nice and tight and together. So. And hit your center point. So whenever you're doing staggered steel, you're going to end up with some shorter pieces on the ends because you're obviously staggering it back and forth. We found that that is where problems come into the ceiling. So as far as keeping things straight, what we like to do is after we've ran a couple long straight ones that we know we can visually see are still running really nice, we're just going to tack up these short ones, go to the other end of our lift and look down at just to eyeball and make sure that these are running. Sometimes, and we've learned this over a lot of different ceilings that we've done, if we don't do that, that is where we see that the sheet can get kicked one way or the other, and then it kind of makes the whole steel ceiling get off. So just a side note, pay attention on your shorter pieces of steel. That is where you most likely will have an issue. All right, just give me a little bit of room.
Let me tuck it really quick.
Okay, right about there, Greg. Go ahead and hit your center. All right, now you go down there and eyeball my center row here.
Take it back a smidge. Right there.
I like it. Okay.
There we go. Okay, we're off the wall. Yeah, I would.
Okay. So when we're starting our run with shorties, what we're going to do is I'm just going to tack up my side that is underneath the steel, but Greg is not going to screw anything. That is because when we get to the other end and we look down at, if we see that one of these is off back or ahead, we can come down and still move those. They're not all screwed in.
Go ahead.
Yeah. All right, let's go. Go ahead and move us. You can. Yeah, I like that. That's good. Yeah. Another thing we do is at all of our joints, our overlaps, they get a screw on both sides of the rib. Everywhere else, we just screw on the one side of the rib, which is just like any other steel, I guess. What would you say? Not the leading edge, but
Yeah, it would be the side.
how would you say that?
The side wherever your lap, your over. Yeah, how would you say that?
Yeah, no. On the back side of your overlap.
Next to the rib on your lap rib.
Yeah, and then just consistently always there. Yeah,
And then, yeah, consistently the same side.
that's right.
Yeah.
I don't know how you would say that.
Yeah, I don't know how you would explain that any differently.
I don't know.
It's
The important takeaway is on all of your laps, you want to screw everything on both sides. And that's going to keep that lap as tight as possible so it is as visually pleasurable as possible.
like this. You don't want to see that.
No, that's true. When running more than one row at a time, like us, when we're running 3, you want to make sure that when you put your next sheet of steel in, that your siphon rib is underlapped the last sheet.
Ha ha. Whew. Tired.
Such an easy job. So throughout this whole sealing, I've been making sure that my lap is perfect as possible. That is going to keep us consistent. And then what Greg is always doing is always lining up his sheet of steel to the last sheet of steel, putting a screw through the center rib first. That ensures that he also is staying consistent because it's based off of where I put my end.
You're pretty far my way.
Yeah, I got a mark here so I know where to put it.
Sure you don't want my
I just
help?
wish I had a freaking rib. And when you get to your last row, you're just going to go ahead and measure center of your siphon rib into your J channel and then cut that piece down and install it, and that's about it. All right, guys, that is the ceiling install. This is about as easy as it gets, a 40 by 48 ceiling and not a whole lot of different size sheets. Hopefully these tips and tricks will help you with your ceiling install. Definitely want to give a big shout out to Metal Wholesale. They're the ones that sponsored this video and asked me to bring this educational content to you. If there's something I missed, if there's questions that you may have as far as a ceiling install goes, please drop them down below in the comments. If not, maybe give a thumbs up if you enjoyed this, and check out Metal Wholesale for any future metal siding or roofing needs. With that, I'm going to get out of here. Thanks a lot. Have a great day.